All right, boys. Another day, another content from AniNews. Once again, thank you so much, AniNews, for the content. Today, we got Garfield's True Despair and Subaru's presentations. Nice. Preparations for war. Let's get into it.
There's a lot happening in ReZero right now. Amelia and Felt have been captured. Priscilla and Otto are nowhere to be found. Garfield has to help his mother find his siblings, then Subaru and the others need to free the city from its captors. There are all events going on simultaneously, and that doesn't even include the smaller storylines of the side characters. So, while Season 4 does switch things up with the way the story is presented, the way it bounces around actually kinda works. It makes sure we're relatively updated with the status of everyone, all while maintaining focus on that bigger overarching conflict. This does come at the cost of some additional depth though, so where we should have gotten more info on Capella, Al, and some others, we instead kept our focus on the main cast.
Yeah.
It leaves quite a bit to cover in just one episode of cut content. So
that's why I did 2 parts. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot going on. Dude, it's like every character. Every character right now has something going on. There's a lot. Yeah, honestly, now that you put it in that perspective, I guess we are going through a lot, huh?
Then do one long half-hour video. This one will be split into parts.
There you go.
First, the extended meeting and Garfield's conflict, then after that, the operation and how it really went down.
Okay.
Both have some pretty interesting details you're probably going to want to know about. But first, have you ever wanted to form your own dream team?
But first, alright, get your bag, bro. Get your bag. I respect it. Let me turn it up a little bit. Alright. Let's go.
You can redeem promo code HOUSE and download the game 54, Episode 54, Part 1, Witch Cult Disaster Response Headquarters, covering Chapters 3 and 4 from Volume 17 of the light novel. With Capella's name being revealed as the culprit behind everything, Subaru was both surprised and unsurprised.
Yeah.
Surprised because Capella was an archbishop he's never heard of before, and unsurprised because knowing her identity was a given at this point. If there was one golden rule these deranged archbishops always followed, it was the fact they always introduced themselves before doing anything.
Pretty much.
It was as if they all had this desire to stand in the spotlight. Now, there were a few logistical questions Subaru wanted answered, like why was it that a business was being used as a disaster response headquarters? Based on what he knew about companies in general, it wasn't normal for them to turn their place of business into a shelter like this. Well, as it turns out, the main reason is because the building was owned by Kiritaka.
Yeah, Kiritaka.
The person Subaru didn't really think too fondly of was actually a lot more considerate than he may have thought. Reason being that, as the leading member of the city's Council of 10, it only made sense to look out for the people he was responsible for. He was actively assisting with the evacuation himself, all while taking time to properly dispatch those who could assist even further. So, if even Krush and Wilhelm are vouching for his character, then Subaru knew Kiritaka might not be as bad as he thought.
Yeah.
In fact,
low-key, I actually did not know what to really think about Kiritaka at first, but I think at this episode, I think he's chill. I think he's fine, bro.
If not for Kiritaka and his quick decision to turn his business into a makeshift field hospital, there was a
He's not just a lolicon. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Episode 1, did not give him the best first impression, bro. Bro blew up the whole room cause Liliana was getting touched by Subaru. Pause.
good chance Felix wouldn't have been able to save Subaru's leg at all. So it was in that way that Subaru actually kind of owed him one. Al had even gone so far as to refer to this as lucky, but for Subaru he knew luck had nothing to do with it. If it did, then Subaru felt he wouldn't have died multiple times to get to this point.
Yeah.
To him, he just wasn't the type to believe in fortune anymore. He had stopped doing so ever since the day he was isekai'd here.
Damn. That's crazy, bro. Also, stop, bro. Yo, stop with this shit, bro. Stop with this, bro. Deadass. Who the fuck is that, bro? Anyway, it's just like, I think it's sad, right? So now he like doesn't believe in this whole luck thing and the fortune thing. Which I don't know how to feel about that. That's crazy. Now he just thinks, oh, I guess like everything like very practical. Maybe with like now that like he dies, and I guess he thinks of everything like practical, right? Like information. Like he only wants to believe and think about like everything that like he can actually like know. So like obviously with Return by Death, obviously he keeps learning and learning, and obviously there's no luck involved with that. It's just like him trial and error, bro, and learning. That's crazy. It's kind of sad though.
The group then went on to discuss the people not present, starting with the most obvious, Priscilla. As a royal princess candidate herself, you'd think Al would be more worried about her safety, but in actuality he wasn't too concerned at all. Yes, he was a bit scared, but that was mostly for himself since Priscilla was gonna punish him for sure. There was no way she wouldn't, considering his lack of presence during such a crucial time like this. Julius and Ricardo had escorted Felix here, then immediately left to go check up on other shelters. Their plan was to contact Felix should they find anyone who needed his help, also they could save at least one more person. The whole thing made perfect sense to Subaru, except for the part about contacting Felix. Reason being that in a world where the total count of cell phones was 1, the conversation mirror media was quite the surprise for Subaru. I mean, with the way Felix pulled it out as if it was the most common thing to exist, that even went to catch me off guard. As it turns out though, the mirror was actually—
I mean, low-key, I didn't even think that much of it, honestly, to BH. Low-key, he just pulled it out and I was just like, okay.
Video was quite the surprise for Subaru. I mean, with the way Felix pulled it out as if it was the most common thing to exist, that even went to catch me off guard. As it turns out though, the mirror was actually a spoil of war from last year's battle against Betelgeuse. It was something Anastasia had been keeping ever since. Its full capabilities allowed it to connect to 3 other mirrors just like it, so all in all it was quite the useful tool for communication. Now, Otto's whereabouts wasn't too much of a concern for Subaru since when it came to staying alive, he was second to none. When all was said and done, Subaru truly believed he was the last person to slip up in a situation like this. It wasn't something he'd willingly admit out loud, but that was the glowing opinion Subaru had of him. This is actually pretty similar to the feelings Al has towards Priscilla, since just like Subaru with regards to Otto, Al trusted she could take care of herself too.
Yeah, it's just that trust. And I mean, that's good, but like, I'm still worried for Otto, bro. I don't know what the fuck is happening, bro. I don't know what the fuck is happening with him, bro. We literally saw him, like, for like a little bit. Glunny pulled up, and we haven't seen him since, bro. I mean, he's not dead, but like, it doesn't mean like anything bad's happening to him, bro. Like, he could be, who knows? He could be captured right now, bro. He could just be captured, huh?
It just wasn't something he was very open to admitting either. Now, when it came to the others in the Amelia camp, Subaru believed Garfield was probably fine too, and Patrash was sharp enough to take care of herself. She was currently safe at an inn settled up alongside Frufu. The one party whose absence was a bit worrying though was Felt and her missing knight Reinhard. The last anyone had seen from either of them was Felt running after the person who ruined their mornings. It was a thought that caused Wilhelm to tense up a bit. Obviously, if Reinhardt was with her though, then her safety wasn't really anything to worry about. So after every absentee was thought about and accounted for, the only wildcards were Priscilla and the songstress. There was no telling where the two of them could have run off together.
True, and also, yeah, exactly. We saw what Priscilla can do, bro. We saw what Priscilla could do. The fucking sword she pulled out in the middle. Yo, I ain't gonna lie, she was tweaking the fuck out. Yo, she pulled out the whole damn sword in the middle of the room, bro. That crammed ass room. Just pulled out a whole ass sword in front of anyone, bro. She does not give a fuck. And no, I'm not underestimating Otto. It's just, I'm just naturally worried, bro. We haven't seen him at all. That's why I'm just naturally worried. Like, I don't underestimate it, bro. You saw what he did against Garfield. I remember what he did against Garfield, bro. I'll let him cook. It's just like, naturally, I'm worried. I have no idea what the fuck, where this guy is, bro. So I'm worried.
Getting back to the main problem at hand, the archbishops were essentially holding 100,000 people hostage.
What? That's the number? Oh, yo.
And the archbishops were essentially holding 100,000 people hostage. As one of the 5 largest cities in Lagunica, it made evacuating everyone almost impossible. Sure, they could technically do it by walking right out the main gate, but with an enemy-controlled control tower right next to it, being discreet just wasn't feasible.
Oh, man.
It was a dire situation Subaru was surprisingly calm about, since only a year ago he would have been freaking out about saving Amelia. As
I said it. Didn't I literally say this? I literally said, compare this to Subaru back then. I literally said like, yo, Subaru's changed, bro. He's realized the true actual objective. He needs to put his own feelings to the side. Put his own feelings to the side. He loves Emilia the most in the world. We know this. He loves Emilia the most, man. He loves her with all his heart, but it's gotten to the point where so much development, so much has happened, and he's gotten to the point where he can actually, you know, pretty much lock in and say, all right, I'll put my feelings aside. Let's do the right thing. Let's make a plan to actually do what we're supposed to do and not put my own feelings into jeopardy and just put literally everything in jeopardy just because I be feeling some way. I respect that, bro. W Subaru.
someone who's grown from his experiences, though, he now knew losing his cool wouldn't save anyone.
Exactly.
His last outburst already caused Emilia to get abducted, so that was a mistake he was desperately trying to avoid again.
But like but here's one thing. Though. Yeah, everyone glazes Subaru. But here's another thing. Something about Subaru, it's just that one thing that will never change. He's very he has these outbursts, right? He's just naturally like that. That's just who he is. Like sometimes he like snaps, right? Remember in the conversation in literally the first episode with Heinkel and all these people, right? In the middle of the room, bro was shouting, bro was angry and all that. Even Betty had to like calm down, right? That's just who Subaru is, right? That's one thing that'll probably never change because like that's literally who he is. So, hey man. But like sometimes it's justified, I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes people be tweaking the fuck out, bro.
It was an admirable notion that really resonated with
Yeah, hot-headed. Yeah, he's very hot-headed. That's just who he is, though.
Wilhelm. For some personal reason or the other, he was very invested in helping Subaru and Emilia. So, while Wilhelm's support came as quite the comfort for Subaru, for Al, who was watching the whole interaction go down, he seemed interested for a completely different reason. He didn't say a word the entire time it was happening, but the way he stared made it seem like he wanted to say something.
Can we take off his helmet? Somebody just go up to Al and just... Just go like this, bro. Go like... You know? You know?
It was enough to get Subaru to ask what it was. Al didn't have any reason in particular, but he did say how he was thinking Subaru was pretty twisted. It was a vague response that came with all sorts of implications. Subaru couldn't figure out what those were right now, but the off-putting nature of it made Subaru more wary of Al.
I hate it here. I actually hate it here. What is wrong with this guy? Like, what the fuck? Let me run that back, bro. Yo, I'm running this shit back.
Wanted to say something. It was enough to get Subaru to ask what it was. Al didn't have any reason in particular, but he did say how he was thinking Subaru was pretty twisted.
I was just thinking that you're pretty twisted in your own way. What is this guy on about? What? What the fuck is happening right now? This guy is actually like, he breaks my brain. My brain trembles, bro. He knows too much. He knows a little too much. And if that's true, I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen his eyes. I mean, I haven't turned off any brightness, so I wouldn't fucking know. Yeah, he's a master baiter. I see what you did there, bro.
It was a vague response that came with all sorts of implications. Subaru couldn't figure out what those were right now, but the off-putting nature of it made Subaru more wary of Al.
Yeah.
This brings us now to the discussion about Capella, where quite a bit more was given for her backstory. Not the Capella we know as the Archbishop, though, but instead the Capella who Lust stole her name from. So, aside from succumbing to illness at a very young age, it turns out her death wasn't mourned by anyone.
Oh shit.
Where normally a state funeral would be held and a formal ceremony put on, neither were done since the people had no desire to. The excuse was that the times were too dire, but in actuality it was simply because no one liked her.
Damn.
So, the processions, which were hers by right, were completely ignored due to the cruel sadistic nature that she was known for. Apparently, wherever she went, an unfathomable darkness always seemed to follow. It's for this reason her death was even kept secret for a while, and that to Wilhelm will forever be one of the kingdom's greatest indignities.
Oh.
It clearly wasn't something he was comfortable talking about. At least now everyone knew Lust couldn't be the old Capella, so to Wilhelm it was likely she was just trying to harass those who did know her. Perhaps to invite suspicion or simply lay mistrust, but either way, it was a disrespectful act that clearly intended to disparage the royal family. Something Krusch and Wilhelm weren't very willing to just accept.
The disrespect.
The one who was affected by it the most, though, was actually Felix, who was now very visibly angry. It was rather rare for anyone to see him like this, but the expression Felix made now was one of pure, genuine anger. As a royal guard whose sole purpose was to protect the royal family, such disrespect was desecration of the highest order. That was the apparent reason for his rage on the surface, but there was something else too clearly bothering him. Something that didn't have anything to do with fealty or the kingdom. Now, there wasn't any point trying to understand the witch cult's intentions, since trying to do so was likely just a waste of time. The most important thing right now was figuring out how to navigate this. They knew what they wanted and what was at risk, so all they needed to do now was figure out the best path forward.
Yeah.
The whole thing was actually so out of character for the witch cult, since to see them use hostages as a means to an end, well, that was a level of logic and rationality Subaru just wasn't accustomed to for them. As for what they wanted, the witch's bones were something Subaru couldn't initially fathom either. With Satella supposedly slumbering in a land far away to the east, the thought of her leaving her bones as a relic just didn't make sense to him, especially with her statement about how she wanted Subaru to kill
me.
That made him adamant that she couldn't be dead, leading to a visible panic at just the thought of it. Her words and his promise forced him to reject any possibility that Satella could be dead. That's when Al would interject saying that it could be other witches, eventually leading to his subtle statement about Tifon.
Like, what? Exactly, like, Subaru's out here thinking of Satella, the Witch of Envy. Frame 1. The most instant answer I've ever seen. Al goes, whoa, hey, buddy. Have you... Come on, man. Just because they say witches doesn't mean actual just the witch, Satella, like Witch of Envy. Like, brother, what are you reading? Web novel, line novel, anime only? Like, what are you, bro? read the content, Subaru. Like, what the fuck is happening with this guy, man?
It was a name he didn't expect to hear coming from him, but one he hoped to inquire about if he ever got the opportunity. Given how cryptic he was when he said it, though, it was another instance where Subaru believed Al knew more than he was letting on. So
100%.
He was very curious to know if the youthful girl he met was the same one Al was deep in thought about. If it was, then the thought of her demise being used as the foundation for this city really was rather unsettling.
Yeah, for sure.
The rest of the meeting went pretty much the same, aside from a minor scene with Anastasia taking a hard stance against terrorism. Knowing the witch cult would just kill them should they give in to their demands, she was pretty adamant about not negotiating with them at all. It made it so the only two options were to fight or flee. It was then that Garfield would arrive with Mimi, leading to the flashback explaining how it all happened. A tragic turn of events starting of course with Capella. So, as she introduced both herself and her vivid disdain for humans, the unsettling nature of it all caused Mimi's smile to disappear. It made her carry an expression Garfield knew didn't belong on her face, and for some reason that made him very uncomfortable. This was of course signed to regroup with Subaru and Amelia, but not before first encountering Liara. What happened next was a deep internal conflict between what he needed to do and what he wanted to do. You see, he was caught between fulfilling his duty to the Subaru and Amelia camp, or helping his mother and the siblings he just recently discovered. It was a decision that brought into question who he was and everything he valued in life.
Jesus Christ, this conflict with Garfield, man. You got the whole... You got Subaru, Amelia, right? Their camp, bro. Your friends, people that you've been backing up, and then you just find out your mom, bro. The mom got another family, the kids, and all this shit. You want to save them? Like, there's a lot of shit going on with Garfield, man. I feel bad for him, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
If he wasn't with Subaru and Amelia, then what use was he to them? At the same time, his
choice.
Two siblings were still technically his family, so it wouldn't be right to turn his back on them either.
Tough choice,
So,
man.
What had finally pushed Garfield over the edge was the Aura's pitiful attempt to convince him not to help. After seeing just how hesitant Garfield was, she quickly understood it wasn't right for her to ask him this. It was a reaction that reminded Garfield of the day she left him. Just like how she did back then, she was clearly trying not to saddle others with duties they weren't obligated to take on. Heartfelt consideration that immediately made Garfield's choice obvious. Of course, Garfield knew he couldn't saddle Mimi with those obligations either, but as soon as he told her not to tag along, Mimi quickly made it clear that she was gonna help too. Both were decisions the Aura simply couldn't understand right now. Given how to her he was just a stranger, it didn't make sense why he would go so far for her.
Yeah, like from her POV, from her POV, it just makes zero sense, right? Random stranger comes out of nowhere. You know, gorgeous tiger nickname, right, with the sun, and you know they had like a little bit of fun in that, but like that's about it, right? You let the stranger in for a little bit, he ate a little bit, he talked to y'all a little bit, and that's about it. And he's doing all of this for you. Crazy, right? From her point of view, but from Garfield's point of view, it's just from Garfield's point of view, this is fucking rough, dude. Yeah, hopefully Mimi doesn't die though. I really don't want Mimi to die, man. Not Mimi, bro.
It was when she finally asked that the only answer Garfield could give was that he was the golden tiger. That was all he said before jumping away to fulfill his promise. In the end, Garfield knew putting off his duties was reckless, but what he found while doing so was that following his heart was easiest. Rather than wrestle with this incredibly tough decision now,
follow your heart.
He decided to instead focus on what was in front of him, then think through what had happened later. It was the way of fighting the Amelia faction had taught him. Why choose one when you can just take everything?
Oh, damn, what a fucking lie. Why choose one when you can take everything? You know? It's kind of reminds me of like the whole Subaru versus Roswell thing as well. You know? Like pretty much the whole thing of like Subaru wants to save everyone. Not a single person will die and be left behind. Just choose everything, bro. Greedy. The greed consumes everyone, bro. Maybe Akena was right, bro.
Just take everything.
No, called Subaru greedy.
As for where the kids were, their lingering scent revealed they had gone to the park to see the songstress. This meant they were likely in a nearby shelter, one that in order to get to, they first needed to pass City Hall, the location of the Aura's husband and the center of Lust's operations. This presented Garfield with yet another tough decision, since he could either ignore the man who stole his mother and go find his siblings, or try and save him and maintain his mother's newfound happy lifestyle.
Bro, goddamn, bro. Like, this is too much. Like, this is too much for Garfield, bro. 15-year-old, by the way. Just a kid, bro. Like, this is too much, bro.
He was, after all, the one who saved her life. So, though Garfield wasn't connected to him by blood, he understood the impact of losing Gallic wasn't something he could just overlook. As someone who knew all too well himself, a blank space in the family was one that could never be filled. So, Garfield being Garfield decided right there that going for the source of the commotion was best. If he could beat Capella right now, then everything should resolve itself faster. It was logic that made complete sense to Mimi, but at the same time had her intuition ringing all sorts of alarm bells.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Her intuition. Yeah, I was like, dude, this girl knows danger. She could definitely sense that danger, bro. Literally, she was like instantly, the two motherfuckers pulled up from the witch cult, and she was like, if we fight them, we are getting cooked. And I was like, what the fuck? That's just that instinct for you, huh?
Garf knew he needed to be careful too, but based on what he knew about witches from his time in Sanctuary, when it came to strength, he wasn't worried at all. Yes, he understood they had quite a bit of power, but from what he could tell about the one in Sanctuary, he honestly felt that she would never beat him in a contest of strength. It was a mindset that gave him confidence in his ability to fight Lust. So, after equipping his shields and gearing up, that's when him and Mimi would finally approach City Hall like how we saw in the anime. His plan was to overwhelm the enemy with speed and violence. He figured that this was the best approach since from what he was told about SUBARU'S encounter with the witch cult in the past, the Archbishop's disciples weren't really anything to worry about.
I literally said this too. What the fuck is up with those two? What the fuck is up with those two? Like, the witch cult members normally are just like what we're seeing on screen right now. Fucking Will slicing them up. Like, it's literally easy clap, dude. Easy fucking kills. WKD farm. Easy. But for some fucking reason, these two are just... They're like final boss type shit, bro. The final boss of the Witch Cult members, man. And it just makes it so much harder, so much worse, because we already have to worry about the fucking archbishops, and now we gotta worry about these two motherfuckers too. Like, what is happening, man?
Yes, there were quite a few of them, but individually, each weren't very strong at all.
Correct.
They were a problem he figured he could just handle on the fly. What Garfield came across instead, though, was a pair with an aura so incredibly hostile that just being in their presence was enough to understand these were masters who've stepped beyond the realm of mere mortals.
Masters who've stepped beyond the realm of mere mortals? Is that what he just said? What in the actual fuck? Mini bosses? Yeah, it's like mini bosses, huh? Literally Wow, that's actually a very good... Yeah, mini bosses, bro, before getting... Yeah, pretty much.
So incredibly hostile that
crazy.
Just being in their presence was enough to understand these were masters who've stepped beyond the realm of mere mortals. To compare them to an opponent we would understand ourselves, each was equal to, if not stronger than Elsa. They were enough of a threat to know facing them unprepared would be suicide.
You're lying. You're fucking lying. It's actually so cooked. They were not gonna win. Oh my god. Stronger than Elsa? That's GG's. Wait, that's actually fucking GG's? 2 Elsas worth? Pretty much? You saw what Garfield had to do to kill one? To kill one? Oh my fucking... Yo, what a comparison.
This was a fact Garfield fully understood, but getting himself to accept it was a completely different story. Reason being that, to him, they were nothing but a wall he needed to challenge and overcome.
It's horrible.
Since his strength was the only thing he had pride in, to turn tail and run after just losing in strength to Reinhardt, well, that was simply unacceptable to him. Now, the fight itself was relatively similar, but to highlight some of Garfield's thoughts throughout, he was genuinely shocked by how light the lady was. When his foot made contact and pushed her away, he was thrown back by just how light she felt. It was here that Garf's greediness would proceed to get the best of him, since where he thought he could at least take out one, instead turned into him getting jumped by both. He was bombarded by an onslaught of perfectly refined swordsmanship from the woman and crude heavy blows from the giant. One flowed like water through a river, while the other destroyed like a storm ravaging everything. It was a mind-numbing beatdown that Garfield could barely keep up with.
Yikes,
The only reason he was able to avoid death at all was because instinct alone helped him to parry the hits that would have been fatal.
Instinct alone helped him parry the blows that would have been fatal. Motherfucker. What? Bro, this whole instinct thing is crazy.
Everything else he just took head on. Now, something that really stood out to me after this was Elsa's line, which translated differently in the novel. Rather than her saying she's gonna kill him, that love for Garfield instead came from the fact he killed her.
What in the actual fuck is wrong with this bitch, bro? It is because you will kill me that you are my first love. Yo, man, this girl's crazy, bro. I did this. Both lines are wild, but this was, I think, even wilder. What?
Or rather, will kill her. Both didn't really make much sense to me, but what they represent is the invitation of death. Either way, the battle would continue with Mimi having to save Garfield, eventually resulting in Mimi's injury. They could have gotten away had Garfield stuck to the plan, but because he was so caught up in trying to be the strongest, he would now have to face the direct consequences of his actions.
So now with more context on what happened, I can honestly see why he blamed himself so much. I can see why now. Because now with this context, it really was because of the whole strength thing, the whole pride thing. And because of that, that's why Mimi got hurt the way she did. Low key, I just thought that like he really wasn't at fault at all, but like now with this in mind, bro, yeah, I guess you can really see why he feels so guilty. He feels so bad, bro.
The near death of the person who helped him cry.
Mm-hmm.
So, the moment Garfield realized that she was injured, he quickly found somewhere safe, then set her down so he could try and heal her himself. This was something he'd spent the last year learning, since if anything happened to those from Sanctuary, he wanted more than anything to be able to help them.
That's cool.
It was for this reason he put his heart and soul into learning healing magic, and this moment right here was about to prove his efforts. It was the exact situation that he'd been preparing for. When the wound he was treating didn't end up closing though, despair and desperation overwhelmed him. All that time he'd spent learning how to treat wounds just like this was completely useless in the moment it mattered most. What should have been an opportunity to show how far he'd come was instead turned into yet another failure. So, as he panicked more and started speaking his thoughts out loud, Garfield didn't even recognize the voice of the person talking anymore. It was so frail and weak that it couldn't be his. This was no time to wallow in his own despair though, since what mattered now was saving her. If it meant giving his life in exchange for hers, that was something Garfield was ready to do in an instant.
Wow, man. Dude, Garfield, man. Garfield, bro. This is too much, bro. The amount of shit he's going through is too much, man. Bro literally saying, I'll give up my own life it's to save her. Jesus Christ, man.
He kept calling for a miracle as he jumped from rooftop to rooftop again, looking for anything or anyone that could help him. With not a soul in sight though, the only thing Garfield could do now was rely on his senses. It was a last-ditch effort which would eventually lead him to the person he was looking for.
Yeah, it was also the fact that it was the Green Reaper shit as well, yeah.
The man that to him completely symbolized miracles. He was the personification of hope in the most dire of situations. So, if anyone was going to be able to save Mimi, the general in front of him was the person to do it.
My goat. My glorious king. The goat. Oh, did you see the definition of hope, bro? Let him cook.
Now, the next part pretty much segues into the operation to retake City Hall, so I think right here is a good place to stop. You can expect that video in a few days or so, or you can come see me talk about it early over on my stream on Sunday. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope to see you at the next.
Well, there we go. Part 2 time. Let's go.
Last video, we highlighted Garfield's despair and...
Alright. Yeah, right, we good? How Subaru's attack on the witch cult really went. ReZero Kakan. Okay, season 3, episode 4. Alright, let's go.
Last video, we highlighted Garfield's despair and the preparations of the Counter Witch Cult Task Force, so this video will finish up that episode and show how that battle really went. I recommend watching last video first though, since the cut details on Capella and Garfield are actually pretty interesting.
We got it, bro.
You can find that down in the description below. To focus on episode 54 part 2 though, this is the operation to retake City Hall. Chapter 5 from volume 17 of the light novel. Starting right where we left off, to further stress just how much Garfield was going through it right now, he failed to protect his newfound family, failed to fulfill his oath to serve as a shield, then challenged an enemy on his own judgment and got beat because of it.
Jesus Christ. 3 fucking things just eating him away, bro. Bro, that is fucking horrible, man. There's too much happening to him right now, bro. Back to back to back, bro.
Now he had to sit here witnessing just how insignificant all his efforts were, because in comparison to him and his feeble attempts at healing Mimi, Felix's own level of healing was incomparable.
Yeah.
The amount of mana he produced made Garfield's look like a drop of rain. It made it seem as if even the dead could be brought back to life with it. When Felix's efforts failed to do anything too though, that's when the price of Garfield's actions were made clear. He could only wallow in despair as the phantom haunting him watched him from a distance. She didn't say anything or even smile, but instead just stared blankly as if to hammer home that this was the consequences of his actions. So, with Felix's initial attempts not doing anything, he would have to rush Mimi down to the hospital, then treat her using what we would consider more conventional methods.
Oh shit.
That's right. Felix was also quite the surgeon as well.
Really?
He was more than capable of stitching Mimi up manually. That's why they needed to bring her here, since this was the only place that surgery could be done. Now, it was while such treatment was happening that Lust's broadcasts continued repeatedly. Her insults and intimidation never stopped for a second. Subaru had tried to ignore it as best he could, but beyond her incessant noises, he heard something else. It was a sound he instinctively rejected due to how awful it was, but the more he focused, the more he realized this was the sound of buzzing insects.
Oh.
It was an unfathomable number of them buzzing around, mixing in with the sounds of the broadcast. The weird grinding we heard ourselves in the anime. The intention was to forcibly induce anxiety, since the disgusting nature of it did nothing but manifest the noise of nightmares. It was the supposed punishment for Garfiel's transgressions earlier.
What the
Now,
fuck?
to further clarify on Mimi's wound here, the unhealable nature of it was a direct result of the Grim Reaper's blessing.
Yes. Literally the first cut content we watched, bro. Yes.
A blessing we know from last season only one person could possibly possess.
Yeah.
This was information cut from season 2, so if you'd rather be surprised and keep the spoiler secret, then go ahead and skip
No,
to
we
here.
already know this, bro.
If not, the identity of this person was known to be Teresia,
Yes.
the previous Sword Saint and Wilhelm's departed wife. Such news led Wilhelm to reveal the old, unhealed wound his wife previously left him, which was now freshly open due to his close proximity to her. As we should have learned back during Season 2, Episode 1, this was how the blessing of the Grim Reaper worked. Prolonged distance to her, the person who inflicted it, may help the wound to close over time, but
Correct.
as soon as the injured gets anywhere near her again, the wound would instantly open back up as if it was fresh.
That's so trash. That's so fucking annoying, dude. Bro, we gotta throw Mimi to like the whole other side of the fucking continent, bro. World. the entire ReZero world, bro. Just throw her into the ocean or some shit, bro. Great waterfall, bro. We gotta get her healed, man.
This was what was happening to Wilhelm's 15-year-old wound right now, as his previously white bandages were now stained red. The whole thing was a very emotional burden for him. To think his wife could still be alive after all these years, well, the thought certainly weighed very heavily on him, especially if she was fighting for the witch cult now. What Wilhelm knew for certain, though, was that whoever Teresia was now, it certainly wasn't the Teresia he knew that died 15 years ago. No. There would be no hesitation to cut her down, and whoever desecrated her soul like this, well, the Sword Devil would show no mercy.
Facts,
Wilhelm
man.
wasn't-
Yo, I'm hoping Will gets some closure on this shit, bro. Dead ass, man. I'm tired of this shit, bro. This is so fucked, bro. The whole Teresia thing, man.
The only one emanating this sparse conviction, since with Mimi's life now at stake too, Ricardo also had a strong reason to fight himself. He would let out this pure bestial anger to show just how committed he was, a promise of revenge that really resonated with Garfield.
Okay.
Moving on to Subaru's game plan now, the primary concern was of course the media. As for why, well, with the witch cult possessing an authority that amplified emotions and resonated them, there was no telling how such an ability could be augmented and enhanced by the media. The level of disaster, if it was possible, would be unfathomable. It's for that reason saving Amelia came second, since if the city was destroyed, Subaru wouldn't be able to save Amelia anyway.
Exactly. It's all about really thinking about the situation, the consequences of your actions, and what everything really means. If he just acted on his own feelings, blindly said, I'm gonna save Amelia, it would have been stupid as hell.
That being the case, if the first step was to secure the media, then by association it also meant confronting Lust. Now, as strong as everyone present was, Subaru would have liked to be joined by Kiritaka's private White Dragon Scale force as well. They were securing the rest of the Council of 10 though, so that was arguably more important than securing the media.
Okay.
Reason being that if any of the council was captured then interrogated for information, the reveal of Tifon's immovable status could result in Lust destroying the city anyway. Luckily, Al knew they wouldn't have to face multiple archbishops at once, since by Lust's own admission, each was stationed at a different control tower. This presented the possibility they might not even be cooperating, since as Subaru saw himself, Sirius and Regulus almost took each other out.
Yep. Literally, the funniest thing of all this, the fucking archbishops don't even like really work with each other. They don't. They don't. Bro, they don't really fuck with each other like that, bro. They got their own goals, their own plans, their own views, like their own ways of thinking, bro. Like it just like the whole interaction with Regulus and fucking Sirius was pretty hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, bro. And also, she's way weaker.
It was clear they weren't the harmonious group Lust was trying to make them out to be.
Yeah.
Plus, to think such absurd personalities could work together, well, that was very difficult to envision. So, though this was just all opinion, the plausibility of it was high. It was after this that Felix would exit his surgery, stating how he stopped the bleeding but the wound was still open. Fortunately, the blessing of thirds kept Mimi going, so that shared fatigue and pain was what was keeping her alive.
Damn.
In fact, with just how devastating such a wound was, in order to help Mimi just a little bit more, her brothers strengthened that bond so that they could take a greater share of pain than usual.
W siblings.
This gave them more time in prolonging Mimi's life, but the caveat was that if Mimi died, they likely would as well. So,
damn. W had that on TV, right? Their names, bro. Yo, W, bro. W siblings, bro.
That if Mimi died, they likely would as well.
That's crazy, though.
With Hetero and TB out of commission too, that meant all three of their lives were now in the hands of Ricardo. If any of them were gonna live, then the witch cult lady needed to be defeated and fast. It was a problem that warranted the full force of the White Fang. All that was left was for Anastasia to give the order, which she had no problem doing since she too was bothered by the current predicament. I mean, this was, after all, her family. She may act tough when amongst all these people, but deep down she truly cared for Mimi and all the others.
Yeah, I think we kind of saw that too. Not much of it, but back in season 1, the episode where Subaru was like going to like every like royal candidate and trying to ask for their help after episode 15, it was like episode 16. Like we saw like when she got introduced for the first time with Mimi. Mimi got introduced. Like you could tell like their relationship, like she really cares for Mimi, man. Mimi's just a pure soul, right? And they probably got like a very nice relationship too.
Down, she truly cared
for
Mimi and all the
Wait, do we know how long they've known each other? I don't think so, right? They've probably known each other for a long time, huh?
Others. So, with the team now established, Crucia's involvement was one founded on duty. Her opinion on the matter was just as strong as it would have been had she not lost her memories. What I mean is that she understood it was her job to fight, and that by not doing so, it would be the civilians that suffered. It was the true wholehearted conviction of someone dedicated to the people. Al had left due to new—
Yo, even with Crush got no memories, even when Crush is like nerfed, bro, she's still, yo, it's like deep down, she's still, what did Felix say back in season 2? I don't know what it was. It was something like, even though she has no memories, like deep down, like the way she acts and her personality, she's still like the Crush that we all know, which is very interesting. Like even though she got no memories, she's still locked in, man.
True wholehearted conviction of someone dedicated to the people. Al had left due to new concerns over Priscilla, but what he also mentioned was that he wasn't good at these fights. According to him, he believed he would just hold everyone back.
Like, yo, I'm gonna fucking tweak the fuck out. I'm gonna, yo. I'm going to start breaking shit. Al, what do you mean by that? Why are you lying? Why is he lying? Why is bro just... Take the helmet off. Take the fucking helmet off. Like, this guy's just fucking lying. Like, how much you want to bet this guy is broken as hell, bro? This guy's probably so fucking broken. Dude, he probably has some crazy ass abilities, bro. Like, what? Stop the cap, bro. Yeah, what kind of power he hiding, bro? What does bro have?
In any case, the biggest question is how can Subaru walk, and the easiest answer for that is Felix. Despite significant pushback, Subaru had demonstrated resolve so incredibly adamant that Felix had no choice but to cave and use his special trick on him. He made it so Subaru's sense of pain went away. The slightest action would still make it bleed again, but aside from that, Subaru could walk and maybe even run.
So that explains that. That's crazy. Hey, I guess temporary solution. I'll take that.
It was all because if there was even the slightest chance him and his tricks could support the others, then that was a chance he was willing to bet on. Even if it cost him his leg for good, the regret of that wasn't anywhere near comparable to the regret of doing nothing. So that's how Subaru was good to go here. Fast forward to the moments right before the attack, and as Ricardo, Garfield, and Wilhelm tensed up at the battle awaiting them, Julius would use his greater spirits to survey the area and do a bit of recon. With the only entrance being at the front, it made the only option for attack a direct one. So that meant Garfield and Ricardo would get their opportunity for revenge, while for Wilhelm, his fated encounter would come too.
This is crazy.
Subaru had hoped Julius could use his spirits to scout out inside City Hall too, but the danger of such a task was far too great for them. Reason being that if the witch cult learned from their battle with Sloth, then there was a good chance they came prepared with anti-spirit measures. It was a risk that could end up significantly diminishing Julius's fighting strength, since his power was directly related to the number of spirits he had at his disposal. This brings us now to the start of the attack, which, as we saw, opened up with Krush's signature skill, One Blow 100 Feld.
Yeah, that's what
it was. A lethal sword technique built off her Blessing of Wind reading, one that carried her attack through the air, extending the reach of her sword by tens of yards. Julius acted next, using 3 of his greater spirits to create a barrier of light. It restrained the witch cultists under a field of incredible pressure, bringing them to their knees and opening up the opportunity for everyone else to attack. This is where the fight starts to deviate from the anime, since from here Ricardo took on the giant alone, while together Garfield and Wilhelm engaged the lady.
Oh.
There was a moment where both were about to land a hit, but after a swift dodge and incredibly precise movements, the lady instead caught Garfield, broke his nose, then used him as a shield against Wilhelm.
What the fuck? What? What the fuck? Run that back.
Precise movements, the lady instead caught Garfield, broke his nose, then used him as a shield against Wilhelm.
What the actual fuck, dude?
She would then use the openings she just created in Wilhelm's defenses and land a powerful kick on him too. Now, Julius's fire spell, though seemingly very powerful, was actually nothing more than a bluff. It was a mere diversion intended to distract the witch cultists into thinking it was a threat. This is because the spell was far too unrefined, making its core easily dispersible, just as we saw in the anime.
Oh, that'd be a bluff,
so,
I guess.
with the initial assault being unsuccessful, it did however reveal their 2 opponents were open to long-range attacks. That being the case, if they prioritized Julius's magic, Krush's Windblade, and Subaru's whip, then there was a good chance that they could beat them. That's when Capella would arrive to interrupt though, instantly bringing both witch cultists down to their knees. As soon as they heard her unbearable screeching, they quickly showed their respects as if on instinct. This would have been a good opportunity to attack, but never once did either of the cultists let their guard down for a second. Though they were kneeling in reverence, at the same time they kept their eyes trained on Subaru and the others.
Even when kneeling, even when they're focused on something completely fucking different, they're out here just like with their guard up fully. Guard is fully up, bro. No fucking mistakes, bro.
It was a level of discipline only the most elite warriors could have. Capella's entrance was slightly nerfed in the anime, since rather than simply resting on top of the building, she was instead circling the sky, writhing in midair as she mocked and laughed at everyone. Her form as a dragon was sullied by the absurd movements she made, but that didn't change the fact her wings were the primary target. So long as they were still functional, it meant she could just rain dragon breath whenever she wanted.
Damn, her dragon I think looks different. Unless I'm tweaking the fuck out. Nah, it's probably the angle. Nah, it's just the angle. It's like a front angle, a side angle here though. These illustrations that he puts are very cool though. Like the illustrations of like the line novel and stuff are pretty cool.
They were still functional. It meant she could just rain dragon breath whenever she wanted. It was a scenario Wilhelm knew from experience they needed to avoid.
Dragon breath is
Luckily
crazy.
for him though, that same experience from 4 decades ago also made him more than confident Capella could be handled easily. In comparison to the fierce 3-headed dragon Bargrin the Black, Capella was really nothing more than an insect. So if all they needed to do was just cut her head off once, then that prolonged fight with Bargrin would prove invaluable. They were words that reassured Subaru and the others greatly. They may not have experience fighting a dragon themselves, but with a certified dragon slayer standing right next to them, morale was at an all-time high.
100%.
Now, an interesting line left out during this encounter was Subaru's attempt to question Capella's claim as the princess.
There's a three-headed dragon in ReZero? Yeah, bro, at this point, bro, the lore goes so deep, bro. But the lore goes so deep in this fucking show, bro. Like, there's so many fucking mysteries, bro. Yo, there's probably like so much lore that like I still don't know of, huh? Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck are they gonna reveal in season 4? Like, we're like unraveling this shit in season 3, bro. Motherfuckers are hyping up season 4 like it's endgame, bro. I don't know what's gonna happen in season 4, bro, but people are saying arc 6 is fucking peak, man.
During this encounter
was
Subaru's
probably, huh?
attempt to question Capella's claim as the princess.
Yeah, and this is only Lugunica. What? Yeah, true. Like, what about the other country, huh? Like, there's still a lot of questions, right? But like, that's the thing about ReZero, though. You just have more questions than answers, and when you do get an answer, there's more questions after that answer. Like, it's
It was upon hearing such an accusation, though, that Lust couldn't help but respond in utter confusion. It was a response that made it seem like maybe this was the real Capella. Julius's attack then combined the might of all 6 of his greater spirits together, producing the exact same spell he once used on Betelgeuse.
Yep, I remember.
It was the sign for the battle to recommence, leading the witch cultists to re-engage them. This time Wilhelm was the one to engage the lady, resulting in a sword fight that could only be described as perfection. To any person who was watching this, the exquisite display in front of them was nothing short of the pinnacle of swordsmanship. On the other hand,
the pinnacle of swordsmanship, bro. Yo, what the fuck is that a witch cultist, bro? Like, she out here just like throwing hands and fighting Will. Like, what?
Garfield had engaged the giant, setting in motion a battle of brutes. The two were exchanging heavy-hitting blows back and forth. It was shield and fist against arm and greatsword. So, if Wilhelm's battle was a silent symphony, then Garfield's was a roaring thunderstorm.
Roaring thunderstorm.
Everyone else was dealing with Capella, who, right before being hit by Julius's attack, unleashed a torrent of dragon breath, scattering black flames everywhere.
Yikes.
Had Ricardo not intercepted it with his powerful howling skill, then everyone below would have been hit head-on by it. The thing is, unfortunately, Ricardo's skill only dispersed the flames mid-air, sending them scattering everywhere around them. It had created this hellish landscape of fire, burning any and everything around them. Regardless of if the surface was flammable or not, the flames continuously expanded as if they had a life of its own. It was Capella's counter and her moment of, I guess, danger. One that definitely added to her threat level. All we got to see was her regeneration and insults, but by adding this, it would have shown that she's not afraid to engage in combat. Either way, I'm sure that message will be made clear next episode.
We'll see.
Capella had a few more comments in line with her perverted nature, then proceeded to give an explanation as to whatever this was. As she would declare herself, this was her conquering death. She was what she referred to as a complete being, someone who was supposedly immortal. This made Subaru's list of enemies even more challenging, since when you really think about who Subaru's been up against, there was one who had bodies to spare, one that drags others down to the grave with them, one who was invincible, and now one that was immortal.
Like, can we get a break? Can we just get like a little breather? You know, can we take a little break, man? Like this is too much, bro. Subaru's going through it, bro. Subaru's going through too much, man. God damn, bro.
The archbishops were definitely not easy opponents. Funnily enough, though, it was as Subaru put them all under the same umbrella that Capella would argue that she wasn't like them. For some reason, she didn't like being looped in with the rest of the archbishops.
Bro, they really don't like each other, huh? That's funny as hell.
That was the last thing she would say before returning inside, bringing us to a good place to stop before next episode. So, if you liked learning more about what you missed from ReZero, then leave a like and subscribe to see more.
Okay.
You can watch last video here or watch my other cut content on Danmachi here. Now, I don't want to overhype Danmachi, but...
Alright, that is it for today's cut content. AniNews, thank you so much once again, man, for coming in clutch, bro. W cut content, a longer one today, huh? A two-parter, bro. W, man. Peak as always, bro. That's gonna be it for today's cut content. If y'all enjoyed and you are new, subscribe. Leave a like down below. The full uncut version to all ReZero content will be on the Patreon. As always, have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time. See you guys.